y'all. This is Seb and
Altair.
And we're here for the next arc of our Campfire Tales.
This one is doozy.
Yeah, this one's a mind trip. Quite a bit. So, last time we told you that we kind of got sucked up all in this crazy thing that was going on between a bunch of gods, and we met our first god.
It was, not the worst one we meet. Not the best. Probably would have been better if we hadn't attacked him. And I did say we.
Yeah. Middle of the pack. He's straight middle of the pack when it comes to how much we liked him.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll take offense to that, but
at this point, I don't think we care anymore.
No, we don't.
So we're there. Like I said, we were on a hunting trip. It went bad, and then collapsed bridge, tricked by a bunch of villagers, almost murdered by ice mares, hung out in someone's creepy bedroom.
Pretty sure it was Borga's bedroom.
Creepy bedroom.
You know what? Thinking about the path that led us up and how it just turned into a sheer drop when we got there, probably just takes all the stuff from that shrine we found and just dumps it straight down.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's how that works. And then you almost died via rabbit.
Almost died. Whatever.
And then we almost died via rabbit.
We didn't die via rabbit. We almost died via giant the Borga paw.
Yeah. The Borga. Ugh. That guy. Straight middle of the pack, though, still.
Hilarious.
He was. Because, he was being funny while he was unfreezing us and sending us on our way once he determined that he would win the fight. But we knew he would win the fight.
There was no contest there. But the ego.
Yeah, the ego. So he sends us on our way to Iluk?
Iluk?
I don't know.
I look?
Ha. Oh, it could be.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Huh, okay. So, we knew Sivo had a sense of humor.
Fucked up one.
A very, very fucked up one.
Yeah. It gets worse. Don't worry.
It gets much worse. So, we start down the mountain, and first we're looking for ravens, and we can't find any, but we're still tracking down the mountain, and the storm actually does lighten up quite a bit at that point.
Oh, yeah. Actually, it kind of was like we had the wind at our back, pushing us along, so it was, easier to go. It was nice.
Yeah, and we actually found prey when we needed to find prey. There was more rabbits.
Yeah, those rabbits were so good. I could have eaten all of them.
They were adequate fuel to get us off the mountain.
They tasted like heaven, every single one of them.
Yeah. He's a small guy, I'm a big guy. I need more than a rabbit.
I caught you a lot of rabbits. I just kept most of them.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem, isn't it? So we make it down, and we just start across this plain land. And I'm like, I feel like we'd gone to this forest before. This did not feel like the way to this forest, but I guess it was. It was weird. It's, again, that whole, things aren't where they're supposed to be.
Yeah. And bear in mind, Borga was like, go follow the ravens, or you do the impression.
Go. Follow ravens. Ravens will show you the way. Do not leave ravens. If you leave ravens, I shall come and crush you like wisps of fur.
Exactly. So, at this point, we're off the mountain. The path is still there, but we hadn't seen any ravens, and we were kind of getting a little worried about that whole crushing like wisps of fur, because he seemed like he meant it.
Yeah, he did. He really seemed to like it in the moment that he meant it. So we're dying to find a raven. Finally, Altair spots something.
It looked bird-like enough, so, ran for it.
Yeah, he ran for it, screaming to me, who was digging in the underbrush to see if we could flush out a couple more rabbits. I turn around, and I'm like, oh, look, there's my friend running off into the distance, as he always does.
Running towards adventure. The voice in my head said it was a good idea.
The voice in your head said a lot of things that were not a good idea was a good idea. It also said, pick a fight with Borga.
Technically, it said, eat Borga's heart.
Yeah, eat Borga's heart. So I run after him, and lo and behold, it is a raven, sitting on top of this, tree that just didn't have any leaves on it.
Yeah. Kind of creepy. The tree looked like it should be healthy, but just no leaves. And it wasn't winter. I mean, it was cold on the mountain, but it was kind of, springy when we got down here.
Yeah, it was kind of spring. And then, so we start following this raven. And follow this raven 2 or 3 miles. And then the raven lands, and there's another raven. And I'm like, we literally are following the ravens.
Yeah. One takes us a certain distance, and then lands. And then there's another one that takes us the rest. I assume they just reset whenever they need or whatever. Or I guess there's a rotation. Who knows?
Or somebody controls ravens.
Creepy.
Yeah. So that's the thing. They're not ravens. We're going to get to that later.
Oh, yeah. So, there's a forest and there's a river. And Borga said we needed to go to the forest to find Sivo. But the ravens are going down the river.
Yeah, it's trying to lead us down the river. And I'm like, first off, we don't even have a boat. We can't get on a boat. What are you doing, ravens?
Yeah, we don't have hands. What would we do? Paddle?
I guess. And that water looked dark and scary, and I did not want to get in that water. And the guy in my head is like, what if there's piranhas or maybe alligators? Can you fight one of those? And I'm like, there's none of those things where we live. And he goes, but are you where you live?
Wow, that's really dick.
Yeah, because I couldn't disagree with him given everything that had happened.
Okay, that's fair. My guy was pretty quiet in the moment. He was like, keep following the ravens, I guess. This is boring. You can do this. Whatever. Maybe eat the ravens when we're done.
So, this is where it's my mistake. It's very much my mistake. I'm looking at the forest that we're supposed to go in, and I'm looking at the river, and I look up at the raven. And I just state at the raven maybe a little harsher than I should have.
He shouted at the raven. He straight up bellowed at the raven.
I said it was going the wrong direction. We were supposed to go to the forest. We need to go to the forest because he would have crushed us. Borga would have crushed us. And I swear to you, every time we fell behind a raven or one of us went hunting, because we were following these ravens for days, every time we fell behind one, the wind got colder.
Was it really days?
Yeah, that trek took us like 3 days.
Oh, maybe my estimation of this whole thing was a little off.
Yeah, it took a lot longer than you thought it did.
Interesting. Well, it certainly explains the amount that we ate. But yeah, no, it was totally, if we lost sight of the raven for even like a minute, icy cold.
Icy cold. So we hurried our tails up. And at this point, it's trying to take us in the wrong direction, and Borga said, to the forest. So I'm saying, to the forest. So the raven, sits there, flaps both his wings at me, which I can only assume is the middle finger in raven speak, and takes off flying up out of view.
Yeah, you really did yell at him, the ground shook a bit.
Yeah. So now we're standing between a river and a forest with no raven.
And naturally, the wind gets cold.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah. So, turns out that about 2.5 miles up the river, it snakes into the forest.
Would we have known that if we kept following the ravens? Probably very quickly. However, someone doesn't have, you're just not the bastion of patience that you claim to be.
I had a really hard couple of days, okay?
Yeah, and you yelled at a bird. Well, not a bird, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I yelled. I don't yell at things.
You don't. If anything, you politely inquire if they could kindly, sir.
Yeah, I try. So, after I yelled at the raven and it's taken off and the wind starts getting colder, we decided it might be a good idea to jump in the river.
Yeah, that was, in retrospect, not the best idea because the cold just followed us, so we're now wet and cold, and there is so much stuff in my mane and my tail, and it's just dragging me.
Yeah, it's like the muddiest of rivers.
Yeah.
So I end up fording through a river with Altair on my back.
Clinging to his back because, cold.
And I have this freezing lantern in my jaw at the same time.
You wouldn't let me carry it.
Because you would have broken it or lost it.
I feel like we couldn't lose that thing in the grand scheme. It probably would just keep coming back to us like, a boomerang.
I feel like you might be right, but at the time we didn't know that. At the time we were truly fearful for our lives.
Yes, crushed like wisps of fur.
Like wisps of fur. So we ford through this river, and it's freezing cold, and then all of a sudden we see that the river snakes into the forest. And all I can do is laugh.
It was a little creepy. Okay, so said laughs, but this was cackling? Straight up cackling into the sky.
What else do you do in that moment when you're like, oh, I guess the bird was right?
You sounded a little deranged. Just a little.
And so then we hear, noises and all that coming from the side. And we're like, Do you think it might be the ravens?
And, you know, reasonably, it could be the ravens, because they followed us this far, so maybe they were here. So, you know, logically speaking, we should apologize to the ravens for Seb being such a giant jerk.
Yeah. So, on the off chance this rumbling is the ravens, we need to go apologize to the ravens, because just because we made it to the forest doesn't mean we know where we're going from here.
Yeah. Because forest, a lot harder to follow than a river.
Yeah. So we trek through the river into the forest a little bit, and I swear to you, in this forest, the trees didn't, like, pick up and move places, but the branch would be this direction, and then you turn your head and you look back, and the branch would be in a different direction, and they just, like, moved themselves so that they made scary faces at you as you were walking.
They did not make scary faces, that's Seb being dramatic. However, the branches did kind of seem like they were constantly moving. Might have been the wind, because there was still wind behind us again.
Yeah, but this isn't, like, rustling in the breeze wind, Altair. It was literally, like, scary screaming face. And then you turn this way, and there's another scary screaming face. And then you turn that way, and it looks like someone's being hung from a tree in branches.
There is a lot there to unpack, Seb, and I feel like we may want to revisit that when we're done telling the story.
He never believed me when we were in the forest either, because every time we turned back so I could show him, the branches had moved.
And they just looked like a tree. Every time.
Someone was screwing with me, okay? They were. And you admit they were.
At the end of this, I'd admit they were. But in the moment, it just seemed like you were being your normal scaredy cat self.
So we trek further forward, and we find the ravens.
We found a lot of the ravens. In a circle. You know, so we had no idea which way to go.
You know what they call a lot of ravens that have congregated together? A murder of ravens. We found a murder of ravens.
That is apt.
And then we walked into the circle.
Yeah. And what happened next? Well,
we'll tell you all about it next time. This is Altair and Seb.